a man of many hats, including vice chairman of Roche Holding Limited, president of Fondation Mava and the Fondation Tour de Valais in the Camargue, board member of System IQ, member of the board of trustees of the World Economic Forum, and center of the Fourth Industrial Revolution in San Francisco. But today, he is wearing a hat that is very close to his heart, and this is the one of co-founder, along with his wife, Rosalie, of the Intent platform that was formed just recently in Davos in 2019. André Hoffmann, please join me on stage.
On a fait une présentation légère, juste pour...
Yes, no, please here in the middle. It's a better shot. So there we go. Yeah, there you go. You can grab that mic there. And as we get started, for those people in the room who may not be familiar with the Intent platform because it's rather new, just 2019, what is the intention behind it? Let me grab you that mic. Yeah.
Do I use this one or this one?
Oh, you're mic'd already. Okay, so you don't need that. Excuse me.
So first of all, thank you very much to everybody for taking the time to listening to me. I completely agree with Anna-Maria. It is wonderful to see people. So for those of you online, there are not many people here, so don't worry, you're not missing much, but it's nice to be able to talk in front of fellow human beings and not just pieces of silicon. So Intent is a partner of the event of today, one of the partners with many others. And I started this platform with my wife some years ago on the principle that we needed to, and we have wrote down the mission on a little panel there, and that we need to accelerate the movement towards a sustainable economy by fostering the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and calibrating this on the SDG goals, 17 goals. And we do this with by building bridges between different projects, and I think today is a good example of that, but also by connecting people who don't necessarily know each other, or who are not necessarily aware that they are working in the same direction. So as Anna-Maria said kindly in her introduction, I happen to be one of these rare animals who happens to sit in corporate boards and corporate distraction, but also quite actively involved in NGOs. And I'm completely convinced that business is a force for good. And I'm going to explain that, because sometimes that particular thing needs to be explained. But first, Intent. We try to create these events, which today have to be on the screen, but which normally were in real life, and we hope to be able to resume that very soon. The principle of what we are trying to achieve is to demonstrate that the current system, and the pandemic has shown that very clearly, the current system is not really fit for purpose. As a humanity, we are not respecting the different forces that constitute our system in a reasonable way. In particular, we overconsume natural resources, we abuse social and human systems, and all this in the name of short-term profit maximization, which has been the operating system of humanity for the past 250 years, perhaps even longer, but let's talk about the industrial period. And how do we make sure that this is changed? We need to change that because we need to better understand what the impact that our system is having on humanity and on the planet. We only have one planet, we need to look after it. I think that nature is a solution rather than a problem, and I think it's very important that we enter into this age of collaboration. Now, how do we translate that in practical terms? How do we make sure that we get? In fact, it's a business opportunity. It's how do we get nature to work for us? Rather than working on the principle that we as humanity know better than everybody and that we have to dominate nature so that nature can deliver what we need to continue this growth which is destroying the real planet on which we are, how do we get nature to compensate for the mistakes we made in the past, and how do we get our activities to become regenerative rather than just consuming? For this, we need to do two big things. One is we need to be able to understand the impact we're having, and measuring impact on human, on social, and on natural capital. How do we put it together so that the produced capital that we measure is a true reflection of what's happening? Very simple example, water. Clean water is not for free. It has a cost. And because it has a cost that we do not integrate normally in our calculation for investments, we are often destroying more than we are producing by producing produce capital based on water. We will come back to that during the whole day, and I'm really very much looking forward to that. So now, once we know what we are influencing and how we're influencing it, we can then start managing impact, and we can start managing impact in a positive manner and not just in a after the event forgetting manner. So once we've established the way to measuring the impact we're having, we then need to look at nature-based solution. How can we get nature to work for us? One of my favorite examples is wetlands, you know, the marshes. Anna Maria mentioned before, I'm the chair of Fondation Tour du Valat, of which we have also a board member in the audience, and I'm looking forward to be able to discuss that later as well. And the Fondation Tour du Valat has given itself as a mission to restore and where possible, to protect and where possible restore Mediterranean wetlands. And why Mediterranean? Because we established there and it makes it easier. And why wetlands? Because wetlands have an incredibly important role to play in the water cycle that we are going to explore here today in different perspectives. So why did Intent decide to associate itself with Waterpreneur and all the partners you will see here? It's because of water. Water is water is life. Water is the backbone of the life support system on Earth, i.e. nature. Without water, nothing happens. And so if we want to zoom into practical solution of how we can promote nature-based solution, I think the idea of starting with water is not wrong. And water is also not only an expression of nature, it's also an expression of civilization, of social and human systems. We've heard before that the Waterpreneurs are based here in Lausanne. We have an event that we will participate with here in Lausanne. We will then go on the other side of the lake in Geneva, and then we will follow the Rhone River. And the Rhone River is not just an ecosystem which is in need of all sorts of help, it's also a historical vector. It's created, in many ways, French civilization. I mean, the whole valley between Lyon and Marseille has been for years the place where wealth was being created in a rather destructive manner. So it's a good example of what can be done. Maybe just a comma. I'm not talking against business, or I'm talking against creating wealth. We need the wealth because we have more and more needs, also socially. But we need to do it in a way that is sufficiently respectuous to be able to continue to add value without destroying the system in which we are. And that makes water such an interesting idea. Now, I'm sure you've all been to a number of these conferences, and everybody tells you, we have to do this, we have to do that. This is not what today is about. Today is about practical solutions. We are going to have pitches by organizations which are involved in water, in the hope that we can get some tools, some content in our toolbox which will allow us to continue to manage the water resources in a way that will really help us to bring practical solution to a very practical problem. You know, water is an interesting thing to study because it is something that we know it will not disappear. There will always be water on the planet. We've all learned the water cycle at school, you know, evaporation, rain, and start again. The problem is that it is not in the right quantity, at the right place, at the right time, in the right quality. Now, if I talk about quality and place, I talk about logistics. Now, logistics is something that we know how to do, humanity. We've done logistics all our lives. That's what we do. We move things around. And it strikes me that in water in particular, there is an opportunity to put these systems in place which will increase our well-being, increase our impact on humanity, and deliver the growth that we all need. So that's about, in a nutshell, what I wanted to say to you today. Thank you for the patience of listening to me. And I wish us all a great day. And in particular, I wish us to get a little bit closer to the reality of what we actually need. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, André. I couldn't agree more. Today is about not only being reminded of the problems that we are facing in terms of water, but what are the solutions? Really seeing practical hands-on tools, solutions, things that can actually be done. So we're all looking forward to seeing that. Thank you again, André, for those words and for being here with us today.
Thank you, Anna Maria.